What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We thank you guys for tuning in. I was about to say Friday. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend day. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, dang. See?
Sunday.
We usually do this on a Saturday. All right. Happy Sunday. Just let you know where my mind's at. We usually do it on a Saturday. Don't judge me. Happy Sunday. Whatever day it is. I mean, what are days, though, actually? Do they actually exist? I mean, who decides what day it actually is? Happy Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you watching. Or listening, if you're listening later in the pod. Rough start already. This is a rough start. We got a lot to get to today. NBA trades, there was a lot that went down. The Denver Nuggets finally made a move. I think we were both going into this season saying that they need to be aggressive. At least I know I was. That this is the year that they need to actually go for it. Stop trying to stand pat, and they did it. Now, will it put them over the hump? That's the question. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about the NFL trades, 49ers being bold, the Dolphins moving back up. What does this mean for the Broncos? Are the Broncos being too how do I want to say, conservative, not necessarily aggressive? So we'll get to that and all that good stuff. But where do you want to start? You want to start with the NFL trades, or you want to start with the Nuggets and
we
the
can
NBA
start.
trades?
We can start with the Nuggets.
Okay. Nuggets make a trade last week, March 25th, with the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. For the Cavs, they traded two second-round picks, I believe. Or no, so they traded Isaiah. Oh, yes, 2 second-round picks. 2 future second-round picks. Isaiah Hartenstein, who that just wasn't working out, for JaVale McGee, Jug Life himself, bringing. You know what? Can I just say this? If you would have told me this 8 years ago, 9 years ago, JaVale McGee will come back to your team and be the most accomplished player with 3 championships, he will be the one tasked to bring the championship pedigree to the Denver Nuggets. I would have been like, okay, yeah, right, sure. The guy that dribbles up and down the court and throws alley-oops past the hoop. That's the guy, right? That's where we're at. I don't like this parallel universe, but you know what? We're here. So I don't mind it. I didn't mind the deal when it went down. I was like, I hope this isn't the only move they make. But you know what? It gives them a rim protector, someone that they need. I think JaVale is obviously, he's a different, I mean, he still does some goofy things, just not as goofy. But he's a seasoned player. He's a seasoned vet at this point. He knows what it takes to win. And I think he provides something that Hartenstein couldn't. I also think he provides a level of defense that Mason Plumlee couldn't really do. I know Mason was really good at like chase down blocks, but I don't know if I'd really classify Mason Plumlee as a rim protector per se. JaVale McGee is a rim protector. I mean, legit 7'7" who
Yeah, I
can
think
do that.
Yeah, and I think JaVale McGee is a little bit better of an offensive player too. Maybe not as good of a passer than Plumlee, because Plumlee's a really good passer.
Yeah.
But I think JaVale can do a little bit more offensively. He could also probably hit free throws a little bit more often.
I mean, he'll at least have some arc under those things. Goodness, Mason Plumlee.
Your tweet.
That has to be the worst shot I've ever seen in NBA
The corner
history.
3. I didn't even.
He shot it with so much confidence. He was like, arms ready, boom, bend, launch, and it was just like, meow. I think it curved. It might have been the camera angle, but I swear it curved.
I'm pretty sure it
to
curved.
The right. And like everybody just looked at it, and they just nobody made a reaction. But I was just like, what was that? Who gave him the license to do that? And I'm sure Jeremy Grant was somewhere on the bench like, 60 million, I'm good. I wanted this. This is what I needed. But did you see it earlier in that game? He had a nice move too. Yeah. Like he caught it. He probably carried, but he did a little fake pass, and he actually shook a dude's ankles, which I was like, you should retire because Mason Plumlee took your ankles. So if I ever find out who that is, he will no longer have a name. He will be the guy that Mason Plumlee stole the ankles from, just like the guy that Nikola Jokic dunked on. He is now the guy that Nikola Jokic dunked on. So I feel bad for that guy. But then Mason immediately undoes it with that shot. I was just like, that has to be the Shaqtin' Fool of the century.
Yeah, that's got to be on Shaqtin'. Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, I mean, back to JaVale. I think he's a He's a better rim protector. He's more of what they need than a Mason Plumlee was. Because I saw a lot of people, were saying, well, the Nuggets just redid what they had. That's not
I
gonna,
mean,
which
theoretically.
it's not gonna really elevate them. They might be able to get back to the Western Conference Finals, but that's about it. They're not gonna beat the Lakers because they just had this last year.
Yeah, but the Lakers are a different team, though. People
The
don't
the
aren't
Lakers are
accounting for
the
that.
Lakers are a different team, but I also think that these are different players and they do different things. Yes, are they similar? Do they play the same positions? Do they do similar things that Mason
Mhm.
Plumlee and Jeremy Grant did? Yeah. But Aaron Gordon is a much different player than Jeremy Grant. Um JaVale McGee is a much different player than Mason Plumlee. When you actually watch them play, and you kind of see how they fit with this current team that the Nuggets have. And by the way, the Nuggets, JaMychal Green is an addition now. He's not a plan B, right? He's
He ain't playing
now,
like an addition.
well, but at this point, you don't have to rely on him being that guy that you had Jeremy Grant to be, right? So you
Yeah.
don't have to rely on that. Paul Millsap can now go to the bench, which is going to fit him
Hey, he
perfectly.
played really well against New
He
Orleans the other
did.
day.
He did. So if he can give you that off the bench, that's perfect. So it gives them depth a little bit too. But I think JaVale, like I said, the comparison between JaVale and Mason Plumlee, I personally would take JaVale McGee, not just because of his experience being on championship teams, but like you said, he's a better rim protector. I think he will be better at catching lobs. He can run that pick and roll a little bit better with Nikola Jokic than say Mason Plumlee could. Just a little bit more athletic, bigger, longer arms. He can do those things, and he has, I think, a little bit better of an offensive game, at least scoring wise, in the post than Plumlee did. Plumlee's a better passer. We'll see how McGee kind of fits into that offense. That's my concern, is how the ball moves with JaVale. It's not like he's gonna get the ball and just stop, and he's gonna like shoot
Yeah.
a
Well,
three
at
or
the
something.
same time, though,
But
Mason wasn't making like Jokic like passes. The
no,
only passes they're making are those back cut passes
but I don't think JaVale
or
could do
those
that.
handoffs.
That's now
I
we'll
mean,
see. We'll see. But I don't
simple
know
enough
if
pass.
that's gonna be as common
We'll
as
see.
what we saw. But they could keep the same offense and run it around Plumlee. Whereas with JaVale, I don't think you can necessarily do that. Now, did they do that in the playoffs? No. So I don't think it matters. Like they barely did it in the playoffs if they did, because Nikola Jokic was out there for 95% of the game.
Oh, all right,
So
Nicola. We're gonna play 46 tonight.
right. So
So
it didn't really matter. But I think JaVale is a good piece that you can play alongside of Jokic, instead of, oh, he's the backup and he's gonna come in and we're gonna run the offense similarly to how we run it with Jokic. That's not how it's gonna be.
and that's an interesting point too, because we got to get to what the starting lineups will be. Because you said playing alongside of Jokic, and in JaVale McGee's presser, he talked about being able to play alongside Jokic.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that's the plan, but I'm
It
curious to
makes a lot of
see.
sense.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the plan is there. But I just got to say, for JaMychal Green, like I've seen, when he was playing really well earlier in the season, there was a lot of like JaMychal Green light. No, it's definitely more like JaMychal red light right now. We should just stop shooting for right now. Let's just take it to the basket a couple times, JaMychal. Let's just every time he shoots it, I'm like, this probably won't end well. It's like Will Barton. Will Barton's start to games are just horrendous. The other night he had like 3 turnovers to start the game, and I was like, snowflakes. I see him under his name, just revolving. It's like a little blizzard. It's like a mini globe. You just shake that thing, and they're just right under there, flurrying everywhere. But JaVale McGee was an addition, 2 future second-round picks, Isaiah Hartenstein. That should be an interesting one. Another trade the Nuggets made, which they weren't really the favorites for this trade. A lot of people thought the Celtics were gonna get Aaron Gordon, but then somehow the Celtics managed to get themselves out of trading for Aaron Gordon. But they got Evan Fournier, so that should help in the Eastern Conference against Brooklyn. But you know what? I can't say anything about Fournier because he dropped 31 on the Nuggets, and then the next night he hit the game winner against Phoenix.
Yeah, he's
So
been really good. It's just I
maybe
don't know if
he's
that
turned the
necessarily.
leaf.
I don't know if that necessarily is what Boston needed. Um,
No, absolutely not.
they needed Aaron Gordon, but
But they're having a weird year because like they're really good. I mean, they have talent,
yeah.
but they're just not playing well. They're only 500 right now. I think last time I checked. But anyways, the Nuggets get Aaron Gordon. They trade Nuggets great Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, which I was kind of a little bit like, I didn't want to give that one up, but it's fine. Future first round picks. I think one of them's protected in 25, and was the other 26? I think I don't know, or 27,
I
something
thought they
like
only
that.
gave up one first, but
No, it says future first round picks. I know 25s was protected, I believe.
yeah.
But they get Aaron Gordon and Gary Clark. Fun fact: there's only 3 Garys in the NBA, and all 3 were traded on the same day.
Right, and one and two of them were swapped.
Yes, Gary Clark came to Denver. Gary Harris went to Orlando, and then Gary Trent Jr. went to Toronto. So bad day to be a Gary in the NBA, or maybe a good
Or
day.
good, depends.
It was really just a bad day for Gary Harris. Did you see the
Yeah.
picture someone tweeted out of Gary in Orlando? Like, I don't know if
Yeah,
he was on the bench
he
or at his
looked pretty
presser,
depressed.
but I was just like, man, like I feel so bad for Gary. Like when you think about it, how can you not feel bad for the
By the
guy?
way, it was one first round pick. It was the 2025 first round pick,
Oh,
and it's top 5 protected in 2025, 2026, and 2027.
okay, so NBA.com has future first round picks. So
Yeah, I think that's probably what they were thinking at first, but
yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's good. So really, at that point, the Magic can just kind of choose what they want to do there. But yeah, no, I mean, you talk about Gary Harris, who, what was it? By year 3, he was at 17 points a game. At one point, he was looked at to be a part of this core with Nikola and Jamal. Like that was the 3 guys that you were excited about. This was like 2016, 17, right? And then it was the core and the groin issues, and he could just never get healthy. And then when he finally got back, he could never find his offense again. And so it was a confidence thing, it was an injury thing. And then he ends up getting traded. And it sucks because that he was the longest tenured Nugget and he gets traded. He was really a part of the resurgence for Denver. He's one of the players that you can acknowledge was part of that and helped change the culture here. And he doesn't get to see it through. Now, I'm not saying that the Nuggets will win a championship, but if they somehow were to do that, it sucks that he won't be able to be a part of that,
yeah.
because it's not like Gary was a huge liability, but at a certain point, the risk was outweighing the reward. And I think we talked about this, and I told you, like, I posed a question to you, where does Gary fit in with this team with the emergence of PJ Dozier, Monte Morris, and then you have guys like Jermichael Green when he gets back healthy, Paul Millsap. Like, who is he playing over? MPJ's minutes are soaring. Will Barton's back playing. Like, who's he playing over? And I think the Nuggets felt the same way as well. And then they were able to pull the trade off. So it was a really good deal. I like Aaron Gordon, depending on who you ask and who you read. Now, if you listen to Brandon, Aaron Gordon sucks at defense, and he's a
Oh dear
subpar
Lord.
player. If you listen to like educated writers and people that watch the game, they say Aaron Gordon is a good defender, and he's a really solid
I
offensive
said
player.
he's
I
a
mean,
good defender. The problem is people are saying that he's a great defender. He's not all defensive. What are you talking about?
I've
That's a great
seen
defender.
I've seen a couple people. Well, neither was Jeremy Grant though. But I would say I don't know if Jeremy Grant's a great defensive player, but he's a really good one. And
Yeah.
I saw a couple people, writers, say that Aaron Gordon is actually a better defender than Jeremy Grant.
I could
So
see that because of he can get blocks. I think he's a little bit more athletic than Jeremy Grant.
I would say the athleticism is a push. Like they're both pretty explosive
I
guys.
yeah, I would say I would take Aaron Gordon on the athleticism just because I've seen him jump over a mascot where his feet were above his head. So, you
And he
know,
put the ball underneath his
and then
butt
he
cheeks
put
and dunked it.
that
It's
was
impressive.
that's still one of the best dunks I've ever seen in a dunk contest.
Yeah,
So
I would have blown my hamstrings trying to do that.
you would have gotten over the skateboard.
I have a 78-inch vertical, so let's check that right now. I think you get with Aaron Gordon, you get a bigger guy,
Yeah.
not height wise, but you get a stronger build.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely like the bulk build. No, he's the built build. Jeremy Grant's the skinny build with like the noodle arms, but they're just super long. Um, I don't know. I think the athleticism is a push. Maybe you could give the nod to Aaron Gordon. That's fine. But
I've seen some blocks that he's had where I'm like, yeah, that's because he has a 45-inch vertical that he got that, you know.
and he's also averaging 15, or at least he was averaging 15 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, now here though, he's going to be the fourth option, right? Because with
Right.
the emergence of MPJ, I mean, really at this point it's Jokic, and then on some nights, MPJ's two or Jamal's two. So really, they kind of like switch. But if you had to choose, it's probably Jamal's the second option, and then it's MPJ, and then it's Aaron Gordon, which I think for him, if he can somehow manage to provide that 12 to 14 a night, I mean, that is, and then you can sprinkle in, Monte's at 10 to 12 a night.
Mm-hmm.
Jermichael Green, if he can give you 5 to 8, I mean, this offense, which was already being recognized as some like, one of the top offenses in NBA history because of the offensive rating. There's like 3 or 4 offenses this year that have snapped what Dallas did last year's offensive rating, their record-setting year. And there's like 3 or 4 offense. I think it's the Nuggets, Brooklyn, and there's like 2 more. But I think you add a guy like Aaron Gordon, it only makes the offense more dangerous. The only issue is finding out what the lineups are going to look like. So
I
that's
think the
where you're going to
lineups. I
have the
think the
issue.
lineups are gonna be. Well, I have what I would do, but go real quick. Going back to Gordon, it's a great pickup. It makes a lot of sense. You needed to get more athletic out there on the wing, at the 4, because Paul Millsap was. Look, he played great against New Orleans, but dear Lord, I mean, sometimes it hurts to watch him play basketball. Like he
Mhm.
shouldn't even be out of bed. So that's that's a big pickup to get Aaron Gordon. And like I the whole thing of, oh, he's just a replacement for Jeremy Grant. You guys, the Nuggets are the same exact team as they were last year now, and they're gonna it's gonna be the same result. And that might be the case, but I do like Aaron Gordon a little bit more than Jeremy Grant as far as the fit with this team. I think Jeremy Grant was a classic spot up 3 and D player, right? That's who he was, at least here in Denver. He's done a little bit more in Detroit, but in Denver last year, that's what he was. He spotted up for 3, and if he did catch the ball at the 3-point line, he would either take that shot or he would drive, and that's all he would do. With Aaron Gordon, I think you can do a little bit more. I think you can run pick and rolls with him. He's a great cutter. You're going to see a lot of lobs in his interview. He said that he's expecting to catch at least 1 lob a game. He'll probably get 2 a game, just the way he cuts.
If he's wanting those from Jamal, though, that's not going to happen. Jamal Murray might be the worst alley-oop thrower in the NBA.
That was bad.
He is awful at that.
Yeah.
The amount of times he just misses guys that are 6'9" plus, mind you. Like the one the other night, I think he tried to throw it to MPJ and it like hit the side of the backboard. I was like, dude, what is that? Just don't throw him anymore.
Yeah. So, but him running the pick and roll with Nikola Jokic, I think that's something that we didn't really get with Jeremy Grant. I think you're gonna get a lot more of. It's just gonna be there. It's gonna be a lot more dominant in the paint as far as what he does, more so than what Jeremy Grant did. Like Jeremy Grant got most of his points from outside of the paint. He would get dunks and he would get, he would drive to the rim and get those points. But Aaron Gordon's going to do it a lot more because he's bigger. And I think, too, he's a little bit more athletic to where he could get up higher than Jeremy Grant. He can catch those lobs. I don't think Jeremy Grant was that type of player. So as far as, remember, what we've talked about was build this team around Nikola Jokic how you would build a team around LeBron, right? LeBron, you need a spot up 3 guys, and you need cutters. That's what you need. Athletic wing cutters and shooters. That's what Aaron Gordon is. You go out and get JaVale McGee, who does fit with Nikola Jokic, adds that rim protection behind him, so he can catch lobs, he can run pick and rolls. These guys are good cutters and good at the pick and roll, and they can shoot the three. Well, at least Aaron Gordon can. So building this team around Nikola Jokic, I think is the most important part, and I think they're seeing that, and that's exactly what they did. They found a guy who works well with what Jokic wants, which is cutting, running pick and roll, and he can hit a three. And he's shooting career high, I think 38% now from three. So it's a great pickup. As far as the starting lineup, I would go Monte, Jamal, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. That's the five that I would go for. It's not gonna happen. I like
Hey.
I like Will coming off the bench and adding that scoring off the
Mhm.
bench. Like Monte can add scoring off the bench, but I'd rather have Will come off the bench and kind of lead that bench unit in scoring. And then you can have Compazzo or PJ Dozier run point. Like that's not that big of a deal. And look, Jamal's gonna get so many minutes that you can make it so that way when Monte goes to the bench, Jamal slides over to point, and then you can have PJ Dozier and Will in there at the 2 and 3. So you can have your rotation to where you never have Jamal and Monte on the bench at the same time, but you can still start them. So that's what I would do. And then off the bench you have JaVale, Monte, um, Jermichael Green, Will. I think that's probably in the PJ Dozier. That's your 10.
Yeah, I think, and I was talking about this with Coach on his stream for the Phoenix guys, but that's the lineup that I was leaning towards was the Murray, Monte, MPJ, Gordon, and Jokic lineup, which I think we have a really good chance to see. I think that'll eventually be the lineup. But I just listed out 5 lineups, and the fifth one, that's going to be my crazy lineup. Like, let's get real weird. Let's do some weird things, and I'll list that one. But so yeah, the Murray, Monte, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic. I think that would be good. You obviously, like you mentioned, get Monte off ball, or excuse me, Murray off ball, Monte to handle those duties. From there, you allow PJ Dozier to kind of step in as that second unit guy, point guard. Then you have Will Barton, Jermichael Green, JaVale McGee, and whoever else you want to throw. Faku, Paul, whatever the case is.
Mhm.
Or you could do Murray, Barton, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic. And I'm kind of interested to see what Malone does if MPJ and Gordon play together. Who's going to be the 4? Because I think they're both interchangeable. I think we've seen MPJ play really well at the 4, but he's also played a lot of 3, and I think he's starting to get better at that. Like
Mhm.
he's starting to find a rhythm with that as well. But at that point, I mean, do we even need to put a label on it because they're both kind of
Well,
interchangeable
that
there?
that lineup though, that lineup is the class or is the new positionless lineup.
Yeah.
Every one of those guys, and maybe that's why that's going to be the starting lineup, because every single one of those guys can switch, except for Jokic. You kind of got to hide Jokic a little bit, but all of those guys can switch. MPJ can switch with Will's guy. Will can switch with Aaron Gordon's guy. Like they're all 6'5" or above. And
Yeah, just the only concern is that if you take Barton and you put him in the starting lineup, who can reliably
score off the
score
bench. That's
off the
that's the
bench?
problem. Yeah.
So that's my only hesitation with that lineup. The other one I have is Murray, Monte, MPJ, Jokic, and JaVale. That's an interesting one. I don't know if we'll see that one. I'd say that's probably very unlikely. Then you could also do Murray, Barton, MPJ, Jokic, JaVale. But this is my nutso lineup: Murray, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic, JaVale.
Yeah, I was
You want to
just
talk about a
I was just
huge
thinking that.
lineup?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a really weird. Like there would have to be some wonky things going on, but
But
I
it
mean,
works because
you have
because of there's it does work because I think Aaron Gordon can guard twos.
yeah. I don't know.
So it's I
You
think
have
it's
confidence if he gets switched on to Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum?
I mean, I'm not comfortable with anyone guarding those guys other than Gary Harris, unfortunately.
Ugh.
So and that's going to be a thing for the rest of the year. Like who's going to guard those guys? Because that was Gary Harris. So that's, and you don't, and look, Torrey Craig, people bring up Torrey Craig. Torrey Craig wasn't good at guarding those guys. So who is going to guard those guys? Because it was Gary Harris. Is it going to be PJ Dozier? Faku?
Well, I mean, Jamal really can, he can now not hide at all.
Yeah.
Like Malone said that coming into the season, we're not going to hide Jamal. And then they tried it, and then he got cooked, and they're like, okay, we're going to try and hide Jamal again. But now, like, he really can't hide Jamal,
Yeah.
especially if they do the Monte lineup. Now he really has to take
That's
on
the worst defensive lineup. And that's why I don't think they're going to go towards that, because Malone's not going to go, at least I don't think he's going to go with a lineup that's going to hurt you defensively, because that's going to hurt them defensively.
But then theoretically, I mean, that should probably, I don't know if that's your best offensive lineup, but maybe your most efficient lineup with Monte in there.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take. It's a risk reward. But the Murray, MPJ, Gordon, Jokic, JaVale line, like that would be something, because you have Murray at 6'4", 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
He's a big point guard. I mean, technically he's probably more of a two guard, which is a good size for a two guard. Well, these days you probably want him 6'6" and up. But I mean, Murray's a bigger guard. MPJ, who's 6'10", 6'11". Gordon, who's 6'8", 6'9". Jokic, who's 7 foot, 7'1". JaVale, who's 7 feet, 7'1" as well. So that's a huge lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about wing defense. Now, MPJ is going to have to guard 2s or 3s, so depending on where you put him in that, but wouldn't like that getting switched on to.
We'll see that lineup at some point. We'll see that lineup.
It would have to be something weird going on.
But that is you better be able to protect the rim type of lineup, because you got Aaron Gordon cutting, you got JaVale McGee coming off of pick and rolls looking for lobs. MPJ is also 6'10", 6'11", who can, well, maybe not catch lobs, but he
can't catch it all. He can't. No, he doesn't catch anything. He needs the body catch. He's been better though lately. He hasn't dropped as many, so I haven't had to fire off my tweet that, I don't see MPJs on the jugs machine with Jerry Jeudy. But he's been doing better. It's still something to watch, though.
But I mean, that lineup though, you got 3 of those guys cutting to the rim and getting lobs like that. I mean, Jokic is having a field day. That's the lineup where Jokic averages a triple-double. That's that lineup.
Should JaVale play alongside Jokic? I don't know if I'd want him in.
Well, here's the thing. Here's when the Lakers series comes around, maybe.
But you don't need it. The Lakers aren't as big as they were.
If they get Andre Drummond, you're gonna need it.
Okay, well that's a fair point.
That's the scary thing, and we'll get to where the Nuggets rank in the West. But if Andre Drummond goes to the Lakers, it's tough. That's tough.
What would be their starting lineup then? It would be LeBron, AD, Drummond, Schroeder, and Kuzma. Is Kuzma a starter for them?
No, would it be Caldwell Pope? I think Caldwell Pope.
Oh yeah, KCP. So LeBron, KCP, Schroeder, and Drummond,
AD, and then Drummond.
AD. Okay, well then they get big again.
Yeah, that's the problem. So
so
everyone who's a Nuggets fan, you better hope that Andre Drummond goes to the East, and preferably not to the Nets, because everyone's going to the Nets. But you better hope he goes to Miami. That's where you need to hope he goes to.
Well, would you be at such a deficit though if you didn't start JaVale McGee against the Lakers if they were to get Drummond, because you have Jamal who's on K? Well, depends.
Yeah,
on
but I'll take Drummond over JaVale though. I mean, look. It's close, but if that happens, that's the lineup that you're doing, right? So when it comes to the playoffs, the starting lineup can change because it depends on who you're playing, right? Mm-hmm. Now Malone takes too long to make that decision. That's the one criticism that I had of him last year. He would take too long to change the starting lineup, and by then they were down 3-1, and then he'd be like, "Oh, okay, let's change it now," and then it worked.
Right where we want him.
It's like, come on, change it 2-1, or if you go down 1-0, you get blown out, and you see that there's a massive mismatch, let's go ahead and change that for game 2, right? So that's that situation where if they get a series against the Lakers and they have Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee should probably start, because what you're allowing the Lakers to do is to get off to a hot start, because you know what the Lakers are going to immediately do. They're going to get the ball down to Andre Drummond and Anthony Davis, and they're going to kill you inside because you have a small Aaron Gordon and you have a Nikola Jokic who won't be able to guard Andre Drummond. That's the problem. So, yeah, that's where in the playoffs these lineups are gonna change. And against maybe the Clippers, it might be better to have Will Barton start because now you're more versatile defensively and you can switch on these guys a little bit more. If you're playing against Utah, starting Monte is probably the best thing to do. If you're playing against Portland, honestly, if you're playing against Portland, maybe starting Will is better because, again, you're more versatile. You don't have Gary Harris to guard Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum. So I think Will Barton's a better defender. He's a little bit bigger, too. He can bother those guys. So that's where, or maybe you put PJ Dozier in that lineup instead. It depends, right? Who knows? There might be a series where if Facu is completely bothering Donovan Mitchell, go ahead and start him and let him get on Donovan Mitchell to start the game and bother him, get him off balance a little bit. So when it comes down to the playoffs, starting lineups will change, and it depends on who you're playing. But that's what this trade does for the Nuggets, these two trades. You get JaVale McGee and you get Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is a versatile defender who can guard 2, 3, 4, even 5 on some teams. And that helps you being able to switch on guys like what you had with Jeremy Grant. And then JaVale McGee, that essentially fixes the whole problem of you don't have rim protection against the Lakers or even the Clippers. So, that's this team can do a lot of different starting lineups, and that benefits them a lot because it's not like they're building their team to beat the Lakers like the Clippers tried last year. They're building their team to where they can match up against different teams in different ways and have that advantage.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the lineups right now. Well, I'm looking at the guys. I just wanted a list to just go through my mind who's going to get minutes in the play, because obviously when the playoffs come, minutes get tighter, starters play longer, rotations shorten, right? So obviously Murray and Jokic are going to be 35 plus guys,
And MPJ,
MPJ is probably going to be 32 at least.
Yeah.
Gordon, I would say, is 30 plus. Monte is going to get minutes, so you're already at 5 there. Will's going to get minutes, so that's 6. JaVale's going to get minutes, so that's 7. So really, after that,
I would say I could argue that JaVale may not get minutes against a team like, let's see. I gotta look at the standings here real quick. But JaVale may not get minutes against a team like Dallas or a team like San Antonio, to where maybe you don't need that rim protection as much, and you could use someone like a Jamaica Green a little bit more, or Paul Millsap a little bit more, or Dozier a little bit more, right? So
probably Pete.
I think JaVale is one of those that it depends on the team. But I think later rounds you're going to need them.
Paul are the guys that series. It's going to depend on the series. And then Facu is literally your 10th, 11th guy that if you're getting blown out, or like you said, you're playing a smaller team and you're missing a Gary Harris, you just need someone in there to maybe switch things up,
right?
To bring, some sort of energy shift. That's where Facu comes. So
yeah,
I like it. I mean, they definitely got bigger. They got more versatile. I think this makes the Nuggets better. Now, the question is, does it make them better in the sense that it's going to put them over the hump? Does this make them a tougher out for the Lakers or Clippers? Yes, I believe so. These two moves definitely make them a tougher out for those teams. I think if they would have kept the team as is and went into the playoffs against those teams, I'd probably say Clippers in 5 or 6, and probably Lakers in 5 or 6, maybe 4. But it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be a blowout games. It'd be close games. But now you bring in these guys. You have the size, you have the versatility, and it really helps that Gordon is a solid scorer.
Right.
Like, it really helps that he can go out and get an easy 15, and that he's shooting 38 to 40%.
Well, now we talked about it in our last podcast. Let's go down the list. Who has a better 5 than the Nuggets? I mean, we've talked about options. The Nuggets can match up with anyone's duo, right? Because they got Nikola Jokic and Playoff Murray, as long as Playoff Murray shows up. And then who's a better 3 than MPJ? Who's a better 4 than Aaron Gordon? And then who's a better 5? With the way Will Barton's playing, no one's a better 5 than Will. So, like, Will would have been a good 3 on a lot of these other teams. And he's the 5th option. That's the Nuggets have they look in the regular season, you want a lot of depth from 1 through 12. That's what Utah has.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Phoenix has in a sense, right? That's what Denver has had in years past, like last year. The Nuggets this year, they don't have a deep 10. Well, you could argue that they have a deep 10 now, but they have a really deep 5. Probably the deepest other than Brooklyn. I think it goes Brooklyn and then Denver as far as the best 5. It's probably those two teams. And I would say the Lakers are right there. I think the Lakers are really close. But I think the addition of Aaron Gordon puts the Nuggets ahead of the Lakers as far as depth at the top end. Now if the Lakers get Andre Drummond, I think that changes a lot. And that's hard to beat. So we'll see what the Lakers do. And also, Tim Connolly did say they're going to be paying attention to these buyouts. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. You know, there might be a guy where they can go ahead and snatch up. And that, you know, that changes things again. So, because I think the one thing they're still missing is just a flat-out sharpshooter. Like, they don't have that. Like a J.J. Redick would have been really nice. So, like, they don't have that. So, if someone gets... I don't know who's out there right now. I don't know who's gotten signed yet. So, we got to look at that a little bit. But they're as far as that top 5. And then Monte's your 6. So, you know, they have the deepest first 7, I think, in the West. And then I think Brooklyn probably takes the cake on that one in the league. But that's what these trades did for the Nuggets. It gives them because in the playoffs it comes down to whose game is it? Is it gonna be Monte? Is it gonna be Will? MPJ? Like, who's gonna have that big game? And now you can throw in Aaron Gordon. That's huge to have.
Yeah, well, and you look at and it's a really great point because we're always talking about that. You know, it's really just about your first 5 to 7. Mm-hmm. Is that can that be better? Are they more reliable? Are they more talented than the other team? And we now, I think, have reached the point with MPJ to where we can expect 18 to 20. Last year in the playoffs, it's like, okay, we can go for that, but can we expect it every time?
One thing I do want to say about MPJ is we don't know if his game elevates in the playoffs. We know Jamal and Jokic does. Does MPJ? Like that's the question that we'll find out with him. And also, by the way, Aaron Gordon. Because Aaron Gordon has played in 1 playoff series. So we don't know how he's going to react to being in the playoffs and playing at that level. He's never done it. He's never been on a team that is a legit contender in their conference. Mm-hmm. So we don't know how he's going to react to that. He could completely fall apart. Jeremy Grant stepped up, at least defensively, and then in some games offensively. Will Aaron Gordon step up, or will he kind of shrink, and then will it be like, well, I guess we're back to Paul Millsap at this point, right? Or Jermichael Green. Hopefully one of those guys step up. So we don't know about those two in the playoffs. That's the big concern because we know Gary was going to be there defensively. And that sucks. That sucks to not have that guy where if the Nuggets match up against Portland, it's like, man, damn, we wish we had Gary right now.
Yeah, well, and it's not only that. It's not only defensively, but just the chemistry he had with Jokic, right?
Yeah.
So when Jamal's off the floor, he and Jokic at least had the chemistry to be able to run those handoffs, and he just knows how to play with them. There's going to be a learning curve for these guys. Yeah. So now you're bringing in 2 guys. Well, really, it's going to be a learning curve for Aaron Gordon. I mean, for JaVale, yes, but how often is he really going to play with Jokic? So
well, and then when he does, it's pretty simple: pick and roll, cut, catch lobs.
Exactly. But for Gordon, it's going to be different. And I think these are all valid points. You know, we haven't seen whether or not MPJ can be a reliable threat in the playoffs, but he's going to get that chance.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has the talent to do it, but will he do it? That's the situation we're in. Same thing with Gordon. I think you bring up a good point there. I'll say this to counter that though. He's the fourth option.
Right.
So there's not a lot of
But
pressure
if
on
but
him.
if MPJ doesn't step up, then you're gonna need him to be the third
Sure.
option.
But still, I mean, theoretically, he's still the fourth option. So really, it just comes down to him just playing basketball at that point.
Right. Right.
Cutting, he's going to get an open swing every now and then to where the ball's going to come to him in the
He's
corner.
gonna get 3 easy dunks a game.
Oh, for sure.
At least,
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah. So, I mean, for him, it's just about playing basketball. I think it's good that they have at least a good 25 to 30 games left to find the chemistry. But this trade makes them more versatile. It makes them better. Now, I don't know if it puts them over the hump over the Lakers and Clippers, but I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't. There's no way that the Nuggets could beat those teams because I do think there's a way that they could beat. Now, obviously, the Clippers would be an easier out than the Lakers for Denver, just because it's LeBron. But then again, you have to factor in their health.
Right.
Like, LeBron, they're going to take it super slow with him. AD, they're going to take it super slow. So come playoff time, are they going to be able to just flip the switch and turn it on? Is there going to be some rust there? Now, obviously, they'll have a series to get activated.
The best time to play the Lakers might be in that first round.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Nuggets and the Lakers are going to fall behind the Nuggets. Right now, the Lakers are at 4, Nuggets are at 5. If, let's say that swaps. Let's say as the Lakers get as low as 5, and the Nuggets can't really catch up to the Clippers, Suns, or Utah Jazz, and they take 4. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think I'd rather see the Lakers in the first round than the Western Conference Finals. Because by the time they get to that second round or Western Conference Finals, I feel like they're going to be getting back to where they were, right? That their motor is going to get going. Whereas in that first round, especially if those guys are kind of in and out of the lineup and the chemistry's not there quite yet and they're just trying to figure things out again, all of a sudden a team like Denver who had the next 20, 30 games to figure things out with their group and if they're healthy, hopefully, all of a sudden that's a much better situation if you're Denver. So it depends. There's a lot riding on the Lakers' health and how soon they can get those guys back. Now, if they get those guys back in a couple weeks, then you do everything you can to avoid them.
Well, the last thing I saw for LeBron is that it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, and they're saying AD is going to be back before LeBron. They're going to make sure that happens.
Right.
So if you're talking 4 to 6 weeks for LeBron, well, there's only 26 games left. They're at 46 right now, so they have 26 games. So, I mean, maybe he's back around, with 10 games left. So he gets a little bit of, a few weeks of games to kind of get his wind under him. I get what you're saying. Yes, the best time probably to get them is the first round. Sure.
But you'd rather not see them at all.
Right.
You'd rather a situation happen to where you can jump the Clippers and all of a sudden the Clippers and Lakers are playing each other in the first round. You get the 3 seed. And now you don't even have to play one of them until the Western Conference Finals. And then they have to play Utah in the second round. That is best case scenario.
I think if you're every other West team besides the 2 LA teams, that's the ideal scenario. Yeah. Is that those 2 teams lock horns?
Hey, you guys want a battle of LA? Here you go in the first round.
You want that in the first round so they can just slap each other around. Hopefully it's a 6 or 7 game series.
Right.
And then it's okay. Now they have to go. I would assume the Lakers would probably win that in 6 or 7. But even if the Clippers did, okay, now it's Utah. Or it would be what?
Yeah, it'd be Utah, because the one is with the 4. Yeah. Now I'll say this though, I would not be shocked. Now I don't know. I think Dallas sleeps over, and I don't think Dallas ends up in the 8th seed. But I'm telling you, not gonna be shocked if Dallas beats Utah in the first round, if that's the matchup. Because Dallas is playing really well right now. Well, they've lost 2 in a row. But they're a good team. That's a team that I'm still like, that's the best 8th seed.
But that's a tough series. Like, every series in the West now.
Well, yeah, no matter what. Unless you're playing San Antonio, probably. I think that's every
series is just a murderer's row. Like, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, let's not forget there's going to be that little mini tournament for the 7-8 seed. So 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all going to be in a battle. That means that Golden State will probably make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
That's what I think. I think they'll be in the playoffs.
That's
I don't. I
terrifying.
don't. I don't think Golden State will be. I think they'll, especially with Aldridge going. Um, DeRozan is still there, but I think they'll eventually. Now Gorgie Dang is signing there apparently, but I mean, how much is Jang gonna help them? So I do think Golden State finds a way to sneak into the 8 seed. I think when I was on the Suns podcast with those guys, I think I had Utah staying at 1. I think I had Phoenix staying at 2. And then I think I had the Clippers and then the Nuggets at 4, the Lakers at 5. I think I had Portland at 6, Dallas at 7, and Golden State at 8.
Okay, I agree with that. I would say the one other team that can sneak into that 8 seed, you might think it's ridiculous, but it's the New Orleans Pelicans. They're getting hot, and that's a scary. Like I tweeted this a couple days ago. I don't get how they're at the time they were 19 and 24 when I tweeted that. I don't get it. They are a good team. That is, and it's funny. I went, I went and looked.
Good, but they're dangerous.
Good. No, they're good. That's a good team. That's a good team. They should have kept Drew Holiday. That's what they should have done, because that's. I think the one I went on like Pelicans Twitter, and I looked around. There's a lot of fans out there that cannot stand Brandon Ingram.
Really?
And it's because look at the box scores just against the Nuggets.
Yeah, he's Superman against the Nuggets.
Well, yeah, sure, but the last game, Brandon Ingram, 5 of 17 for 13 points. I guess this is a bad example because Williamson had 19. The problem is that in a lot of these games, if you look at their box scores every night, Brandon Ingram has anywhere between 22 to 26 shots, and Zion has like 13. But Zion's putting up 39 points. Like he had the game against the Nuggets, he had 39 points on 19 shots.
17 of those were layups.
Well, he made 16.
Of course he's efficient.
Yeah.
Because most of his shots are at the rim.
Well, exactly. So but then Brandon Ingram's out here shooting 5 of 17. It's that like, remember when 3 years ago when Will Barton was leading the Nuggets in shots taken, and I was losing my mind because it was like, I want Jamal Murray to be taking these shots. I want Nikola Jokic to be taking these shots, not freaking Will Barton. It drives me nuts when I see Will Barton taking 18 shots and I see Jamal with 13 and MPJ with 12. What is happening out here? That's the same situation, because I like Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram is sure as hell better than Will Barton, but he thinks it's his team. That team needs to start playing around Zion. If they start playing around Zion like they have the last 2 games, by the way, then they would make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it was his team for a short stretch, and then Zion kind of made a leap that I don't think anybody really, well, I didn't expect. He's the definition of a one-trick pony, but his one trick is so good that it just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
and
but
he
I
just
think
wants to get to the left every time, and he just banks it in every time, and I'm just like, oh my god, he's fat too. He's fat buff.
He was like, last night. Was it last night or 2 nights ago? He was 13 of 20 against Dallas. He had back-to-back games where he had 39 against Denver on 16 of 19 shooting against Denver, and then against Dallas he went 13 of 20, but 38 points. By the way, it was 12 of 18 from the free throw line. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
He's in the 70s for his free throw shooting.
And I think before the year 2, or even when he came into the league, our concern was, well, he needs to develop a shot.
I still think that's true.
And I still think that's true, but again, with Giannis, it's like, oh, it's never gonna happen because look how ugly his shot is.
It just feels so robotic.
Right. With Zion, he has a good looking shot. He can do it. And by the way, he's shooting 35% from 3 or 32.
I don't know if he's at 35.
I think
he made one.
He's at 35. He's at 34.8.
It's not bad.
So it's not like he's not shooting a lot, but he's a 35% 3-point shooter, a 71% free throw shooter this season. That's and he's, by the way, gotten better from a year ago. So that's a good sign to where you're like, okay, he's gonna figure it out because he has a good enough looking shot to where it's not like where you're looking at Giannis like, yeah, that dude's never developing the shot. It's not happening.
But we've seen the high flyers, the athletic guys. We've seen the Blake Griffins. We've seen, Giannis.
Yeah,
Even though
he's
Giannis
different.
is a little bit better.
Zion's different from Blake Griffin. I know. I hate that comparison. I get it size
Well,
wise.
I'm saying in terms of a guy whose main trick is just being a force at the rim.
Mm-hmm.
He still needs to develop. I'm not coming off of that. Now, I didn't think like Zion was going to be this good this quick. I thought he was going to be good. I never thought he was going to suck.
Yeah, you
I just
did.
didn't know if he was going to be transcendently good. That was like what people were like, oh, this guy's like, he's going to change the league.
Right.
Which, I mean, he's 6'7". He's a literal bowling ball. He's explosive as all get out.
We've never seen a guy his size do what he can do.
I mean, he's
That's
like
the
a Charles Barkley reincarnation.
yeah,
But he
but not
might be
even Barkley was this
more.
athletic. This is ridiculous.
He might be more athletic. But I mean, they're of that same mold of a more
Yeah.
of a stockier. I don't want to say short because they're 6'7", but they're just that undersized wing. But I still stand by if he doesn't, because all it takes is one weird landing, one
Right.
ankle turn,
Right.
and it's an Achilles, and that explosion is gone. If he can develop just the threat of 12 to 15, early in this career it should be 10 to 12 each year. Okay, I'm going to step back a couple, 12
Mm-hmm.
to 15. If he can just knock, then at that point, how do you play him?
Right. You
Because
can't
if you
stop
hug
him.
up on
Yeah.
him, he's going by you every time.
Well, it's
If you give him space,
like when LeBron was coming into the league. He couldn't shoot. He was a worse shooter than what Zion is now. And once LeBron started to develop that shot, it was impossible to guard him. It was already impossible to guard him because he got to the rim so damn easily. He was a freight train. It's very similar to Zion. So yeah, I mean, and they pulled up a stat. Zion is averaging the most points per game in the paint since Shaq.
oh, I believe it.
That's the only name that he's with as far as dominating in the paint at that field goal percentage and that many points. It's him and Shaq. That's it. And he's 6'7". Shaq was 7'2", 7'3" at 300 plus pounds. Of course, he's gonna average 20 points a game in the paint. Zion at 6'7", 284. How the hell? Like that? It's ridiculous. So that's the one team that I could see sneaking in. San Antonio is dropping out. So who's gonna take? No one else is dropping out. Dallas won't drop out. Portland won't drop out. LA won't. The Lakers won't drop out. Denver won't drop out. The only team that could drop out is San Antonio. So then it's between Memphis, Golden State, and I would say New Orleans.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd want to see. I mean, obviously, if New Orleans was in there, you'd want to see them. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they took a team to 6 because you're taking them lightly, or they made those 4 or 5 games really hellacious on you.
When I think
Because
the team that they have around Zion is actually pretty good. If Brandon Ingram would take a step back and they would give the keys to Zion, you have a solid 2 in Brandon Ingram. Steven Adams is a great center to have alongside with Zion. And then Eric Bledsoe, like that's the one kind of bummer. But they have and then Lonzo, by the way, forgot about Lonzo. So they have a good team. Losing JJ Redick or just letting him go. I mean, I think at this point they're expecting to kind of just drop out, whatever. But I don't know. They're gonna make things. They can make things interesting. By the way, when you look at the point differential, they're one of. There's 8 teams in the West with a plus point differential, and New Orleans is one of them. So
it's not bad.
That's
they're onto something.
They're on something. Yeah.
They need to build it right, but they have 2 really good pieces in Zion and Brandon Ingram. And by the way, I tweeted this out the other day. I mean, how about the Lakers choosing Kyle Kuzma over Brandon Ingram? Like that?
Yeah.
That is not aged well. at all. Like, but so be it. And they signed Kuzma to an extension this offseason too.
Yeah.
So I just don't see it with him. Like, I get he has potential, but it's just up and down with him. And I'm just like, man, I don't know if he's ever going to be what they think he's going to be. But then again, I mean, Brandon Ingram wasn't living up to the hype either early in the career. And then they shipped him off to New Orleans and made an all-star team.
But the thing with Brandon
So,
Ingram is he's not very efficient. So you have one of the most inefficient guys along with the most efficient player in the NBA. It's not really a good match right now. If Brandon Ingram can kind of just settle down and stop taking bad shots, he takes a lot of bad shots. A lot. Like he's definition of hero ball. He's what Will did when Will came here in Denver. Like that's what Brandon Ingram is doing. He needs to realize that Zion is better. Like Zion is the guy. They need to run the offense through Zion. But also Zion needs to get better at ball handling. Being that guy that can kind of have the ball in his hands the majority of the time. Because right now he's not that guy. He's get him in the post, get him on cuts and lobs, and that's about it. He doesn't really he can catch the ball out on the wing and drive on you, but he's not running pick and rolls. He's not running the offense in any way. That's another step that he needs to take.
yeah, he's not an initiator right now for his
No.
offense or his team. He's an initiator for himself.
Yeah.
But give it 2 more seasons because it happened with Giannis. We're in the honeymoon phase with Zion where it's like, oh, this is so awesome. He's cool. It's the day's going to come quickly where it's like, okay, when are you going to take this team to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
Just like the day has come with Giannis. Past couple years, it's been, oh, this guy's such an athletic freak and all this. And now it's like, you've had a few failures in the playoffs. Can you even be the guy on a team?
Right.
So, and I think Giannis is farther ahead in his progression than obviously Zion. Now, obviously, there's like 6 years of age difference or something there, but Zion when you can frustrate teams when they're trying everything they can to stop you and they still can't, that's how you know you've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing that at such a young age right now. It's ridiculous. And it's one move. It is one move. He gets to the left and he just banks it in or he dunks it. I'm just like, oh my god.
You can't stop it. By the way, I think how old is Zion? 19 still, or is he 20 now?
I think he's 20.
He's 20.
21.
He turns 21 in July. I mean, dude, he's 20 years old and he's 6'7", 284. That picture, by the way, where you say that you say you were wrong. That picture, do you see his arm?
Yes.
He has a tiny head compared to his body. Compared to his body.
He's got a little double chin going. I think for him, what will also take his game to the next level is if he sheds about 15 pounds.
Yeah.
If he does that and he takes care of his body, because right now he's not taking care of his body.
No.
He's a physical specimen, but you can tell he's still a little bit chunky. So
yeah. He has that Nikola Jokic body.
He does. Well, I mean, Jokic didn't have muscles like that.
No. Add the muscles on top of
Yeah, like he's got some fluff. But if Zion because he's probably a legit 265 right now, 260. If he got down to 250.
Well, no, they have him at 284.
Sweet mother of Jehoshaphat. Okay, let's get that kid down to 260. Okay, let's release some of that wear and tear on the joints a little bit. God, 280?
They have him at, hold on, that's ESPN. Let's see, Zion. Let's see. 284. Let's see, Basketball Reference has him at 280. Yeah, everyone has him at 284. He might be heavier than 284, to be fair.
He's around there. If he could get to 260, a little bit leaner, I mean, he'd probably get more explosive if that's even possible. I'd still think he'd be able to just bully guys. I mean, he tossed JaMychal Green around. He's tossed Rudy Gobert around. I'm just like, this dude he's a bowling ball.
He's fun to watch.
But he's fun to watch. He is fun to watch when he's not playing your team and going to the left every time.
I'm just surprised that he can do the same things he did in college in the NBA. That was the one concern I had. Yeah. I was like, how is he gonna move guys around like he is in college? Because it was easy for him. He could put his shoulder down or even just kind of in air. I remember there was one where he drove. He got in the air. Someone jumped with them,
It
with
was
him.
Gobert.
Well, no, in college, the kid
Oh,
went flying. Like the poor kid went into the stands. Like it was like see ya because
well,
he
he
just
did that to Gobert a few
and
weeks
then
ago.
he's in the air and he's moving guys. That's not supposed to. You're not supposed to move guys when you're in the air. You're the one
Yeah,
that's supposed to be moved if you're in
yeah.
the air.
He's like a big ball of gravity, and wherever he goes, he just forces you somewhere else. You're
It's
gonna just go the
unbelievable.
other way.
I just didn't
So
think he could do it in the NBA because guys are bigger, faster, stronger. But it seems
yeah,
easier.
well, he's if he's pushing 3 bills, then he's bigger, faster, stronger, no fatter, but fat strong. So can't discount the fat strength. All right. Any other talk on the Nuggets? Any other trades you want to hit on that surprised you? I mean, the Norman Powell one
Yeah,
to Portland is an
Portland's scary.
interesting one.
They got Nurkic back. CJ McCollum is back. That team healthy. Now that's the thing. Will they be
Yeah.
healthy in the
Well,
playoffs?
that and defensively, can they stop anyone? They can score, but
Yeah.
can they stop anyone?
Yeah.
I really like Gary Trent Jr. That surprised me that they
Yeah,
got rid of him.
that was the one where there was another one too. Another young player got moved. Oh, by the way, the Bulls going out and getting Nikola Vucevic to pair with Zach LaVine. They're going all in with Zach LaVine. That's interesting.
That's a good duo. That's gonna next year. They should
Well, they'll
be a
be in
top
the
five
and
East team.
if they start winning games, they're only 2 games back behind Miami. They can make the playoffs.
Yeah, they may make a playoff push, but that's a good duo there. And I think it also takes Chicago out of the Nikola Jokic
Hmm.
sweepstakes when he's a free
Also,
agent.
Miami getting Oladipo. I don't know how that fits.
Mm.
I feel like Aaron Gordon would have been great in Miami, in Boston, um, even like a team like Atlanta. Like all these teams in the East that are in the playoff hunt. I don't know how Denver got Aaron Gordon because they didn't have to give up that much. The Nuggets did not give
No,
up that
well,
much.
if you think about it, the Nuggets got JaVale McGee and Aaron Gordon for two future first round
No,
picks.
one future
Future
first.
first, yeah, a future first, two future second round picks
Right.
for JaVale and Gary.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Oh, and Hartenstein. Everyone keeps forgetting.
Hart-
Everyone says everyone's been thanking Gary
sorry,
Harris and
sorry, yeah. Well, the Nuggets were like, "Thanks, Isaiah." They put like a picture of him out, and everybody's like, "Yeah, thanks, bye."
uh,
Meanwhile, everybody's brokenhearted for Gary. Gosh, I feel so.
Hartenstein's the one in Cleveland. At least Gary can chill on the beach in Orlando.
I honestly don't understand what Cleveland is doing. They're like, we want to get rid of 2 centers, but we want another center coming back. I'm just like, what are you building there? It just doesn't make sense to me. But they have Jared Allen, so I mean, I guess that's their starter, and Hartenstein's coming off the bench. But yeah, it was an interesting day of trades. I think the Nuggets were definitely one of the winners. We'll see how far it takes them. But you know what? I think we can at least be appreciative that the Nuggets are trying to go for it now
Mm-hmm.
because they kept preaching patience. We're going to wait it out. And it's, I think both of us were of the mindset like, okay, this might be the year where you have to take a swing at the deadline or at the latest in the offseason. And now they're at the point where they're like, we're going to go for it. Now, there's no guarantee that it works out, but I think we can at least be satisfied. You know what? They tried. They're trying everything they can to maximize the window of an MVP season in Jokic, of Jamal Murray, who seems to be taking a step forward in his progression as a player, and also a step forward in the progression of a guy like MPJ.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it. Kudos to Tim Connolly and the staff. Hopefully it works out. I'm not going to say it's Western Conference Finals or bust, but it's at the bare minimum. I mean, they got to make the second round series tough. At this point, they shouldn't lose the first round. There's no way you should lose in the first round. Now, if it's the Lakers, okay. The Clippers, okay. But if it's any other team, any other team below them right now, they should beat. So I'm excited for it. We got 20 some odd games left. I'm preparing myself mentally and physically to be brokenhearted again. So I'm going through my own mental gymnastics there. All right. NFL trades, because there were some interesting ones going on this past week. The 49ers trade from, what were they at, 12 to 3, switching with the Dolphins there. And for that, what did they give up?
They gave up
Number 2023 for number 12.
and then the
So
2022 first round and 2023 first round, and a third this year.
yeah. But it tells you that San Francisco, they really like that punter out of Florida Gulf Western State University, and they want to make a splash. They're sending a message that they need that punter. 99 kick power, 99 kick accuracy. They see him. No, they're probably going to go up and draft one of the quarterbacks. Because
Well,
Jimmy Garoppolo, there's no talks of him being traded right now, but they obviously don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you're making a move like this, it's for a quarterback.
the weird thing is there's been a couple of rumors that the move was for Mac Jones, which
Woof.
which doesn't make sense because you could have got Mac Jones at 6, or 9, or 8.
I don't think it's for Mac Jones.
It
I mean, I
can't
did
be.
think there's an article saying that if they want a ready-made quarterback right now, it's Mac Jones. If they want the guy that's most
But
ready
see
for the league right now.
I mean, sure, I guess, but it has to be for Trey Lance. If they're saying Garoppolo is not up for, if they were trading Garoppolo, then maybe. But I think this is a situation where Garoppolo is the bridge quarterback at this point. I think Trey Lance fits what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. The type of quarterback that he would want, strong arm, can move, all that. I think that's the move. By the way, the trade was made a day after Trey Lance's pro day, or a couple days after. So, like, the timing, it makes sense. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 90% sure this is a move for Trey Lance. At least in my opinion. I don't know if anyone has said that. I think that seems to be kind of like the I think Justin Fields is dropping pretty fast. Because Trey Lance has all the physicals. He just didn't play last year. So, like, that's... And he played in a really, really small school. So, like, that's the weird thing with him. But I think it makes the most sense. Because, by the way, like, someone came out and said after Zach Wilson's pro day that the draft starts at 3. I think the draft starts at 4 because I think Trey Lance is going 3. But it was pretty obvious after Zach Wilson's pro day that he's going 2. Whoever takes him at 2. I don't know what the Jets are doing.
Well, yeah, and we've reached a point to where it looks like at least 3, if not 4 quarterbacks are going to be taken with the first 4 picks.
Yeah.
And there might be, 5 taken within the first 10 picks.
Probably.
So the first 2 to 3 picks are already decided. I mean, it's pretty much probably going to be Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. It's Mac Jones. But then Atlanta, I mean, that's a dark horse team for a quarterback because do they still believe in Matt Ryan or do they want to prepare for the future right now?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a team there. And then after that, what do you have? Carolina you have Cincinnati, who obviously won't take a quarterback, but they may be listening to offers from Detroit, Carolina. And then Miami obviously trades back to 6.
They did that so they can get the first receiver. I guarantee you that's what it was.
But it looks like it's a sign that they believe in Tua for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, you have to stick with Tua, I think. I think you have to. I mean, I guess the Cardinals got rid of Rosen pretty quick, but like at least Tua played well. He didn't have, the splashes like Herbert did. But they also didn't really do a lot with Tua. So I don't know. I think you kind of have to see what he can do next year. It's like, man, you could have had one of these quarterbacks. Like that's that's the thing. But what Miami did do is they almost guarantee now as long as Deshaun Watson wants to go to Miami, and that whole thing with the off the field issues gets settled. Miami, I think, is in the lead to land Deshaun Watson because now they have 2 firsts this year, 2 firsts next year, and 2 firsts the year after that, I'm pretty sure. Or one of those is gone, and that's to Philly. But they have the most first-round picks within the next 3 drafts to where they can make a move for Deshaun Watson. So,
but he has a no-trade clause, doesn't he?
Right, so that's why I said as long as Deshaun Watson is okay with playing in Miami.
Because the last report we saw before all this off the field stuff went down was that the rumor was he wanted either San Francisco or Denver. So if he's still holding
But
leverage
again,
there,
that's just a rumor. I don't know how much you can
right?
say is that's like definitive because Miami went 10-6 last year.
Sure.
So why
But
wouldn't you want to
theoretically,
go to Miami?
if that's true, though,
And
San
and let's
Francisco
say
looks like they've
but
taken themselves out of his
let's say
space.
Miami drafts Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts.
Mhm.
And because
Yeah.
they signed, did they sign someone? They might have signed someone.
I have no
A
idea,
wide
to
receiver.
be honest
I
with
don't
you.
know, but they're gonna draft a weapon. They're gonna draft Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle. So if they do that, all of a sudden Miami's looking very very interesting, and they got another pick in the first round. Where let's say they take Travis Etienne, like okay, or Najee Harris. All of a sudden they're drafting all these offensive weapons and they're going all out. Or let's say they draft Kyle Pitts with pick 6, and then with their pick 23 or whatever, they take a receiver. And they have a top 5 receiver in the draft, just like that. And Kyle Pitts. Hello, well, yeah, if I'm Deshaun Watson, that's interesting.
Mhm.
They went 10-6 last year, and they just added 2 weapons to go get me. Yeah, let's go. Now Denver's the only other team because San Fran ruined that because they got rid of all their draft capital to move up.
Yeah, that's
So
what I was saying. They've taken themselves out of it.
right. So
So
it's between
if that
Miami and
report
Denver.
was true that he was on San Francisco or Denver, well, San Francisco looks like they've left the party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you do bring up an interesting point with Miami. Yes, you could say that it makes them interesting, sure. But I mean, you look at Denver also. I mean, they were what? How many wins did we get? Like 6,
Mm-hmm.
7?
6, I believe.
A few of those you could argue are bounce away from being 7, 8 wins. It looks like they're a quarterback away, specifically with what they've done on the defensive side. It's impressive.
But if Deshaun
So
Watson is okay with either, if Houston goes to him and says, if they say, will you lift the no trade clause for either of these teams, then at that point it's in Houston's court. So
right.
then they would pick Miami's deal because they would
Yeah.
take pick 6, pick 23 first next year, and 2 first the year after that. That's what 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 first round picks within 3 years. Denver can't. They can't touch that. And if George Payton isn't, if he's more of a conservative guy, which he was in Minnesota, they're not doing that. They're not giving up 4+ first round picks for Deshaun Watson. They're not.
Yeah.
George
It's
Payton's
going to be
going to take this thing really slow.
Well, let's get to that before we wrap today's pod, because obviously this relates back to the Broncos, because it's okay. The Broncos were obviously rumored to be a part of the Deshaun Watson interest and all that stuff. You see George Payton going to all these pro days. I believe he went to Zach Wilson's. He went to Trey Lance's. And I don't know if Justin Fields has already had his or
No,
if
not
he
yet.
hasn't. If George Payton plans to attend that, if he does, then would make
I
sense.
think he was also at Mac Jones because I think Mac Jones had his pro day too.
So there you go. So is this a mistake on Denver's part? Should they have been more aggressive to get up? There's still time to obviously trade up. Should they try to trade up? I mean, if it's me, I mean, well, last podcast, I think we both agreed that this is probably the year to draft a quarterback. You just solidified your defense. You spent a ton of money, more money, into that side of the ball. Your offense is loaded with weapons at the receiver position, the tight end position. Running back, I thought you lost a solid weapon, but you still have Melvin Gordon, and we'll see what this Boone guy can provide. The offensive line should be solid. I mean, you have Garrett Bowles coming off of his best career year. Juwan James, who is a solid player. It's just really for him, it's about like just playing and staying healthy. Graham Glasgow, hopefully he comes back and provides a solid uplift from free agency last year. Dalton Reisner, if he can bounce back from a lower year last year, and then Cushenberry gets a second year in the system as a rookie, going into a second year as a center. At this point, probably should look to move up. But then again, I'm not like angry that Denver's not trying to jump at the opportunity to move, because I think George Payton, he really has all the leverage here. He can decide and be methodical with how he wants to build this team. Now, it's probably a good idea to get a quarterback this year because they're saying the quarterback class next year is not so good.
Jeremiah
But I feel like people say that
Owusu-Koramoah
every
plays
year, and then we get to the quarterback class, and there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that are going to be highly touted. So I'm not terribly angry or upset, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, look, I don't think the Jets are taking or are trading the pick. So I think 2 is off the table. I think it was reported Philly was trying to move up with the Jets, because they wanted Zach Wilson, and that's the only quarterback that they were willing to trade up for. So obviously that was not the case, so they traded down. So that tells me that they probably offered a lot to the Jets for Zach Wilson, and they just didn't want to do it. So that tells me Jets are off the table. The only trade-up possibility is Atlanta, unless Atlanta stays and then they take Kyle Pitts, or I don't know if they take the thing with this draft. There's a lot of these teams that need defensive help, but the top 10 is gonna be probably 8 offensive players, 7 or 8. Like, you've got the 4 quarterbacks, possibly a 5th, and then you got Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, possibly Jalen Waddle, like, or Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater. Like, there's a chance that the top 10 is all offensive players. So I don't know what Atlanta wants to do. Do they go out and get someone like Kyle Pitts to help out Matt Ryan? But, like, Atlanta needs defense. So then they could trade down, so that way they can go get, their defensive guy, whether it's Caleb Farley, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, whoever that is. If that's the case, that opens up the door for Carolina and Denver to move up with Atlanta. But again, are you doing that? You're doing that for Justin Fields. That's probably the pick. Are you okay with Justin Fields? That's another question. Like, do you love Justin Fields? Do not, like, I'm all for the Broncos. Like, I'd prefer the Broncos to trade up and grab a quarterback. But I don't love Justin Fields. So if you don't love one of these guys, then don't make that move. If you like I like Justin Fields. I don't love him, so I wouldn't make that move. At this point for Denver, they're in a weird, I think they're in a weird spot because you did so much in free agency for this defense that taking a corner, this corner won't play that much unless there's injuries. But Kyle Fuller and Callahan are both free agents after this season. So if you're projecting to lose those guys or not be willing to re-sign those guys, then probably taking a corner makes the most sense. But if not, and if you're planning on keeping and re-signing Kyle Fuller, then you already have your 3 with Ojemudia. I don't know if taking a corner makes sense. Micah Parsons is probably going to drop because he has a lot of there's some issues going on. Apparently he doesn't really like playing football, and there's some other off the field issues with him, so he's probably going to drop out of the top 10. So then, and by the way, he's listed as an outside linebacker. He can play inside, but he's not what you really need as far as the inside linebacker goes. So then it's like, okay, at this point, I think I'm trading down. And hey, if you trade down far enough, maybe Najee Harris is the pick. Because you won't have Aaron Gordon. That's the one glaring hole on offense.
Melvin Gordon.
Or Melvin Gordon, sorry. Melvin Gordon. Too many Gordons in Denver now. So maybe Najee Harris is the pick. Or Travis Etienne is the pick. Or you trade down a little bit and you grab a Rashawn Slater or Penei Sewell or who's the other guy? There's another one, Darisaw. So maybe you do that. So I think at this point the move is probably what's probably going to happen is Denver's going to trade down. That's my guess. I don't think they trade up because unless George Payton loves Justin Fields, they're not going to trade up. And or it's a draft day trade. No one moves up to 4 yet, and San Fran does something stupid and takes Mac Jones. All of a sudden, I'm trading up to 4 and grabbing Trey Lance.
Yeah, if Mac Jones goes, I mean, that changes everything.
Yep.
So if he's the pick there.
Or if they take Justin Fields, then at that point, I'm thinking about trading up to 4 and taking Trey Lance because I think that's the only guy that I'm trading up to get out of those 3. Obviously, I love Zach Wilson. I would take Trevor Lawrence in a heartbeat, but obviously those 2 guys are gone. So the only one left out of the 3 remaining that I'm okay with taking, at least I love, is Trey Lance.
It's going to be interesting, and we're just about a month away, literally. Thursday, April 29th is the draft.
I think the move is to trade down. Add draft capital, and look, George Payton has a history of trading down. So I think that's the move. And then it depends on what you do. But hey, I'm just saying, Najee Harris in Denver would be nice.
Yeah.
That's a you see what Derrick Henry does over in Tennessee. That's nice.
We'll see. We got a month to figure it out.
Also, if Kyle Pitts is there, I'm taking Kyle Pitts. I don't care if he's a tight end. I don't know if you saw the tweets. I went back and forth with Cameron. He's the best non-quarterback player in the draft.
Yeah, that guy's a physical freak. He's what, 6'6".
Yeah, and by the way, you can run 2 tight ends. We saw New England do it, and also Kyle Pitts is 6'6", 240. He can play at receiver. You can put him in the slot. If you run a group out there where you have Noah Fant at the tight end spot, or you can even split Noah Fant out, and then you have Sutton on the outside, Jerry Jeudy on the outside, and Kyle Pitts in the slot, or Kyle Pitts on the outside. Yeah,
good luck.
I mean,
you just need your quarterback to complete the pass and not throw it over their head.
Well, yeah, now it's really on Drew Lock.
That was unnecessary. No, I shouldn't have taken a shot. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you guys for watching, tuning in, listening later on if that's what you're doing. Real quickly before we go, the Lakers are going to sign Andre Drummond. So that's going to be official here shortly. So there you go. The rich get richer. All of these teams building up just to beat a pudgy man from Serbia. Takes all this to beat.
Well, that makes JaVale McGee all as more important. So
yep. So it's probably a good thing that they got him. So, all right, that's going to do it for us today. For Brandon Stoll on the other side, I am Stephen Priest Jr. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and thank you so much for tuning into this version of the Behind the Glass.
Have a great Saturday.
You're the worst. All right, I gotta hop off.